Hello everyone, my name is Shane, and in this video, we're going to be doing an unboxing, and I'm going to give my first impressions on the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 6. This phone is available for pre-order at the time of this video. I'll have some links in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. The retail price is $1,100. This comes in 7 different colors. We have yellow, mint, silver, this blue color we're going to be checking out here today, and there's 3 Samsung.com exclusive colors, including peach, white, and this crafted black with a textured backing. There's 2 different configurations of this Flip 6. The base model comes with 256 gigabytes of storage, and you can get as high as 512 gigabytes of storage, which everybody who pre-orders during this pre-order phase will get this model. There's a free storage upgrade for a limited time. And what's also pretty exciting is that this phone now comes packed with 12 gigabytes of RAM, up from the 8 gigabytes of RAM last year on the Flip 5. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and check out the Galaxy Z Flip 6. Shout out to Samsung for sending out this review unit ahead of time. Wow, look at this blue color. That looks really nice. Let's see what else we get in the box. Inside the box, we have a USB Type-C to Type-C charging cable, a little bit of paperwork, and a SIM ejection tool. But that's everything inside the box. Let's get all that out of the way, and let's check out the star of the show here. First impressions of this Flip 6, like I said, really liking this blue color initially. Have some really nice brushed aluminum sidings here. Really nice opening and closing experience. Of course, you'll notice that we have those new camera cutouts here, and these are upgraded cameras this year. These are packed with the Galaxy S24 cameras. However, just still have the dual lens setup, just the wide angle and the standard lens. Also have that nice matte finish on the hinge here. Let's go ahead and take a quick physical tour. On the right side, on the top of the phone, we have the fingerprint sensor and the volume rockers. On the left, we have our 5G antenna and our SIM tray, which has room for 1 SIM card, no micro SD card slot here. On the bottom, we have 4 of our mics, which you have 2 mics on the top and 2 on the bottom when you have the phone actually opened up. Have our Type-C port capable of 25 watt super fast charge, and we have our bottom firing speaker here. And it's also worth mentioning, of course, we have an upper speaker on this phone as well for a dual speaker setup. And something else that's new with this Flip 6 is that we have this black lining in here. If you can see this between the 2 halves of the phone, there's this lining in here that should keep out any dirt or debris that might get into that inner display. It also means we have absolutely no gap here, just except for this tiny little spot here up by the hinge on last year's Flip 5. You can maybe just see a little bit inside the phone there. We used to have these very tiny little feet on the corners of the Flip, and this actually turned out to be a design flaw because on my Flip 4, you can see that I lost my foot on that one. We just have a consistent edge all around the phone here, so no little feet to lose or anything, just a nice clean overall finish and a nice flush flat design here. Another notable upgrade from the Flip 5 to this Flip 6 is an increased battery capacity. So this now has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery packed inside, and this is up from 3,700 milliamp hours from the previous Flip 5. Now I'm curious to see if the weight has increased because of this increased battery capacity. So putting the Flip 6 on the scale, 192 grams. Let's check out the Flip 5 here. 188 grams. So honestly, just a few grams difference in exchange for a larger battery. I will definitely take that trade-off to get some more battery life on this. Mind you, we have the upgraded Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processors. So we have on paper at least what should be a really powerful compact device with a good set of cameras and a nice look and design and physical feel, and most importantly, that reduced crease. But let's go ahead and boot up the Galaxy Z Flip 6. Taking our first look now at the 3.4-inch AMOLED outer cover display. Now, unfortunately, this did not change from the Flip 5 last year, so we have the same screen size, same screen brightness here at 1750 nits. However, the inner display did get an upgrade. It now has 2600 nits of brightness. So even though we don't have many drastic screen and display changes here, really everything else other than that is upgrading, and that is a good thing. So let's check out the inner displays here. Yeah, these do look very similar as far as the bezels and the hole punch cutout on the top and the 6.7-inch screen that we still get with this. I've always loved the Flip form factor. It's a large screen, but it's not a super wide phone, so when it's opened up, it's a much slimmer form factor that just fits really nicely into the hand. This is just a very enjoyable phone to use, even though it might not have the most ideal aspect ratio for gaming or watching YouTube content. It's just a great all-around everyday device. But I'm not going to get too carried away here. I'm going to go ahead and put my SIM card in this phone, use it for a day, and I'll come back with my final first impressions on the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 6. All right, so it's actually been a couple days now since I first started using this Flip 6. I'm definitely ready to share some of my first impressions with you guys. So getting into the phone, the Biometrics, we have face recognition. This works on both the cover screen and the inner display. And then we have the side-mounted fingerprint sensor, which this is my preferred way of getting into this phone. So easy, just when you pick this up and you just naturally drop your thumb right there for the cover screen, which if you unlock it here on the outside and then open up the phone, you'll be right at your home screen. And if you're jumping straight into the inner display, you will quickly get the muscle memory to just put your thumb up there right on the sensor and just gets you in every single time. So love getting into this phone super quick. Now, the first thing I want to mention that I've really appreciated with this Flip 6 initially in my first couple days of use is the opening and closing mechanism of this phone. So if you want to enjoyably open your Flip with one hand and just use your thumb to kind of push up the display to get it opened, you can't really do that very effectively on this Flip 5. I always had to put some momentum behind it, physically flip open the phone, and I know that would bother a lot of people in the comments. But with this Flip 6, I've noticed that I can just take my thumb and with a little bit of pressure, very easily open this phone up the whole entire way. This is the main aspect that makes the Flip phones so enjoyable for me to use. So I'm so glad that we have a very nice and smooth opening and closing experience here on this Flip. Now, the next biggest improvement I've noticed with this Flip 6 in my first couple days is the improved crease. So I know if you put this in certain angles and lighting, you will still see it somewhat, but the main improvement with this new crease is that you barely feel it at all. And it is such a big deal on this Flip because when you are running your finger over this screen, when you are scrolling on any application or just doing really anything on this phone, you are barely feeling this crease now, which is just such a night and day difference for me personally over last year's Flip 5. Obviously, you can see the crease just like on the Flip 6, but the feel is what is way different. I have always noticed this crease every single time I'm scrolling on a social media feed or just doing really anything on the phone. So that is a minor annoyance for me personally over the past year of using this Flip, and really all the Flips for that matter. So really for the first time, honestly, we now have a really good cleaned up crease on this Flip 6. Now, another physical enhancement that caught me by surprise on this Flip 6 is the design. I really wasn't expecting the design to be that much different because on paper and just in stock images, you see, okay, there's just new camera rings on the bottom with the color matching to the phone itself. But when you just see these phones side by side, you can tell that this Flip 6 just really got a physical facelift overall with the really nice premium looking and feeling matte sidings. It just has a very nice premium aesthetic and design to it. And the nice looks of this phone do translate over to having a nice feel in the hand. This has a really good feel with the matte sidings. So again, like I mentioned before, we don't have a ton of screen changes on this Flip 6 from the Flip 5, but just everything else going on around it has been drastically improved, and I can just tell from a physical perspective that this is a very well put together and refined Flip phone. I did do a little testing outside earlier of the enhanced screen brightness. I can notice that there is indeed a brighter screen on this Flip 6 for the inner display with the new 2600 nits of brightness. What I've also noticed and appreciated with this Flip 6 initially is, of course, the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor. Even though this is a compact device and you wouldn't expect it, this thing performs very well in every single little action you do on this phone. It just does it instantly and you don't really have to wait for anything at all. Overall performance on this phone is very impressive. Just going into any of your applications, very quick and smooth and responsive. I can also tell initially that the battery life is very good on this Flip 6 with that 8 Gen 3 processor and the new added battery capacity now having 4,000 milliamp hours. In my first 3 days of usage, I got over 7 hours of screen on time. Getting 7 hours of screen on time is a metric that I am personally very happy with. And then the last thing to talk about that's new here is the new camera system on this Flip 6. So on the top here, the Flip 6, the bottom, the Flip 5. The first thing I noticed is that not only do we have more detail with the Flip 6 because of the new 50 megapixel sensor, but a lot of my photos and videos on the Flip 6 look a lot more color accurate to real life compared to the Flip 5 having that traditional, much more saturated finish here. So you can see this tree looks a lot more saturated on the Flip 5, whereas on the Flip 6, it's definitely closer to the actual color of what that tree is in real life. Of course, if we zoom all the way in here on this text, you will see that we do have sharper text on this Flip 6 because of that 50 megapixel lens. Looking at this shot here, again, with the primary lens, the 50 megapixel on the Flip 6, you're getting a lot more detail captured in your shots here. So looking at this patch of grass here, looking at the parking lot, looks kind of grainy on the Flip 5, whereas here on the Flip 6, it just looks really nice and crisp. So there is a slight color difference between the two, with the Flip 6 just looking more realistic and natural to real life, and the Flip 5 kind of sticking to that conventional Samsung, more saturated look and more detail in some of my shots if you are pixel peeping and zooming in. So I am definitely a big fan of some of these upgrades and changes coming to this camera. There is also improved low light performance on these Flip 6 cameras, so got this beautiful shot last night of the sunset. It's a really nice low light performance on these cameras initially, and overall, while I am still a little upset that we don't have a telephoto zoom lens on this phone, I am happy with the 50 megapixel edition for more detail. You could crop into an image to kind of get a zoomed result in a way. And similar to the Fold 6, we also now have 4K 60 recording with that ultra wide lens, so a little bit of added versatility on the video side as well. I know I didn't talk much about the cover display in this video because it is really unchanged from the Flip 5, but I love having access to all my applications on this outer display at a moment's notice, so you can use any of your applications on this outer display. So it's really nice to jump into here, quickly reference something on the web, quickly check your emails, or just hit the lights on and off around the house if you have an app for that. It's just really nice to have quick access to your applications here on the outer display without having to open up the phone necessarily. But overall, first impressions of the Flip 6, really happy with this phone initially. There are some very good upgrades in my eyes on this Flip 6 over the Flip 5, even though just from a quick glance here, you might not even think there's that much difference between them. A lot of the differences are happening on the inside with the very much improved crease, a really nice opening and closing experience. You don't have to whip this phone open to have that one-handed experience. You can just nicely open this up. Pretty much everything has been refined and updated and upgraded with the exception to the displays themselves. So if you already have a Flip 5, you're fine with the crease in the middle, you're happy with the camera performance, I would say there probably is not a need to upgrade in that circumstance. But really for any other previous Flip owner, if you are looking for an upgrade, the Flip 6 is definitely that. I know this is coming in on the pricier side. It is an additional $100 this year, but honestly, if you take the plunge, I think you won't regret this purchase because this is just a very enjoyable phone to use on an everyday basis. It's surprisingly powerful for how compact it is. I love the ability to just kind of prop this up, put it on the table, reference something. If I'm sitting somewhere, I don't have this flat on the table. I like that I can prop this up and reference my things easier. There's definitely a lot going on here with this Flip 6, more than meets the eye, so definitely stay tuned for some of my future reviews on this. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I'll leave some links in the description to Samsung's best deals on this phone for whenever you're watching this video. And thanks so much for watching. Take care.